Hey everybody, it's Mike. I'm back here. I'm just giving you a quick wave and a quick shout out because the tool that I'm using to record this, which is a wonderful tool, it will make me disappear there in your lower left-hand corner from time to time. As far as I know, I can't get this to float over everything that I show you. So I wanted to say hi so you could see my smiling face here and say, welcome to the Get Control Advanced class here. So we're now in the Advanced Excel class. And, I always like to remind people Excel is such a widely, it's such a deep tool. It's got so much to it that it's really difficult to assess what is an advanced skill or not. But hopefully some of the stuff that we'll cover today will be good for you. As a reminder, you can follow me on Twitter at GetMoreDone. Link in with me. info@getcontrol.net is where you can email me with questions about this class or anything at all you're interested in. And our new book, The Hamster Revolution for TQ, we're really excited. It rapidly achieved bestseller status. And I wanted to let you know that on our website, under books and Hamster Revolution for TQ, you can download the first 3 chapters of the book for free, which is kind of cool, right? So that'll give you a chance to see if you want to buy the Kindle version or the paperback version, and it's available all over the world. We just shipped about 100 copies to a company in Australia. Enough of that stuff. Let's get into the class here. The whole idea of everything that we're doing is to boost your tech quotient, your TQ, and you might want to think of that as a combination of your tech skills and your ability to share some of what you know with other people. And so this gives us a way to look at where we're at. And the goal of today's session is to boost and improve your Excel skills. So the skills go up, and then also try to challenge you to share these with a colleague. I mean, the idea of sharing technology with others has become extremely important now that we're so immersed in technology, and it makes or breaks people's careers. So your ability to share what you know with others and have them share it with you, that's how I think we can really rise above. And that's really the philosophy underpinning all of these talks that I do. We're trying to boost TQ around the world. And TQ means that you're strategically learning, you're pursuing, not just bumping into or taking advantage of an offering, but you're going out and trying to figure out, how can I get better with Excel, OneNote, PowerPoint? How can I organize my browser, my digital documents? How can I communicate more effectively in a virtual world? And we want you to leverage that knowledge and then share it with other people. So the scenario that we're working on, just as a quick reminder, so it just doesn't, the spreadsheet seems a little bit more humanized, that makes a little more sense, is that we all suddenly work for the Drones for Homes drone company. Yep, you're just taking a brief break from your regular job to work in a fantasy company called Drones for Homes. And so this is a rapidly growing company that provides all kinds of safe recreational drones to people. And our slogan is Capture the Magic. We've got these 3 drones, the Falcon 2000, CamJam 400, and the Wasp 100 as a reminder. I know some of you may not have watched the intermediate one, so I've got to kind of give this back to everybody who's seeing this for the first time. So we're looking at these 4 reps: Pam, who's great on the phone; Jim, who's our best listener; Karen, who really knows how to challenge the customer when the customer has a piece of information wrong in a friendly, polite way that gets the customer to think, wow, she's a straight talker. And then there's Carlos, who's been our superstar for a long, long time. So this is the team that is going to show up in these spreadsheets over and over again. Now, what I'd like to cover with you today is to continue showing you some functions that you can do within Excel. And I don't use every one of these every day, so if I stumble here or there, I hope I'm begging your forgiveness. However, we're going to transition into pivot tables and dashboards. We're going to talk a little bit about those, and we're going to finish up with a discussion of how to create macros. These are basically putting together a series of 20 steps that you push one button, and all of those steps occur at once so that you can save an incredible amount of time and boost your efficiency and productivity. As I know some of you are processing the same type of information month after month, or as part of what you do for a living. So let's have some fun. And just remember, I'm going to try to hit Control Z as much as possible, except in the macro section, where the undo function doesn't work the same there, I've noticed. And then we're going to encourage you to use the quick access toolbar to record your insights. And if you need to catch up fast, well, there's a great little handy workbook that goes along with this. And of course, you're watching a recording now, so you'll have this recording that you can go back and catch up. But you can also email me at info@getcontrol.net. And that's how we can stay in touch. Okay, so I'm going to be working off of the workbook, and we're going to pick up our discussion here. We're going to jump into our discussion right now, and here's what we're going to look at. We're going to start with something called VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP. And what VLOOKUP allows you to do is to find information, sort of mine information. If this was a huge spreadsheet with thousands of entries, the ability to go in and figure out what Dan Johnson's April numbers are would be an important thing. So if you're following along with me in the spreadsheet, this is the basic non-macro spreadsheet. So here we go. If I click into the small spreadsheet and in cell H1, what I'd like you to do right now is type in rep name. Okay? And then right next to it in cell I1, I'd like you to type in April sales. So we're going to create a query that basically goes in and says, if I put in the rep name, I want to see what their April sales are, because we're going to want to do some mining. So here comes, get ready, here comes our VLOOKUP equation. I'll do my best to try to explain each step of this. Equations start with an equal sign, and then I'm going to type VLOOKUP, and you can see it pops right up there. So I'm just going to click on that to save a little time. Click, click. And now I'm set up to actually end it. What I like about this is it tells you what each thing is that you've got to place in here. So the first thing that we're going to place in here is H2. And that's because we want the information on the rep's name to be entered in here. This is called the lookup value. So if we're looking up Karen and we want to find her April sales, that 121,000 number should pop up there. The next thing we're looking for is what's called the table array. And the table array is basically the area that you want to be looking in. And this is the area that I want to look in right here, the actual table that's right there. So we can just highlight that. Now here's the tricky one to me. How do we designate April when there's all these other months here? How does it relatively know that we're looking for April? Well, we count from left to right. Column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bingo. Type it in 5 because we want it to go over to the, so it needs to start from somewhere. So it starts from the left and works in as Excel looks. And then we're going to type a funny word in here, false. And false basically means, and close our parentheses, false means that what we want to have in there must be an exact match. It can't be close. So as I hit enter, don't worry if you see the NA there, because now we're going to try to do a few queries here. So if we can query Karen, we should be finding 121,987. Remember, this could be 3,000 comments in here all at once. So let's go in here, and I'm going to type in Karen's name and hit enter. And sure enough, it pulls up her 121,000. So if we want to get adventurous and change this to 4, right? 4. Okay. And hit enter. All right, now we're seeing Karen's March numbers. See that? And let's see if we can do a different name in here. Let's just do Carlos. Boom. And those are Carlos's. We should change this to March sales, of course. And so there you can see it pulled up his March sales. So the VLOOKUP works extremely well when you have that big old spreadsheet and you're trying to find some information in it that will help you along your way, kind of to boost your performance there. All right, so that's our first advanced function that we wanted to cover. Now let's go look at SUMIF. Now what I'd like you to do here is basically erase this. Now if you're ever doing this and you're saying, you know, Mike, I want to keep that so I can go back and see how you did that, you can always right click on that particular cell and select move or copy, and then select create a copy and click OK. And that will create a backup of this. Maybe you should rename that one, you know, VLOOKUP, so that you always have an example there. So you can take those with you all the way through. So I'm going to clear this though for our exercise here. I like the eraser clear all, really make sure there's nothing embedded in here, you know, that we have to worry about. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate the SUMIF. SUMIF. Now SUMIF, we're going to use our big spreadsheet here. So this one's always a little tricky. So I'm going to do my best here. So in cell R2, what I would like you to put in cell R2 is job title query. Okay, job title query. That's our header. Let's expand this out so we can see it. You know, maybe we make it bold so it's coming through loud and clear. And then in S2, we want to put in here the sum of sales. So what we're going to try to do is say, let's see, we sell to these different kinds of people, right? We sell to all different kinds of buyers. And if I put in a query to say, look at all the non-managers, I want to see how much I sell to them. And that way I can make a comparison between how much we're selling to each type of person. In other words, maybe 90% of our business comes from one of these things. This will allow me to get that type of information here, okay? So now comes the tricky part, of course, the equation in cell S3. What we want to do is type in equals sum if. So this is called the sum if. You can see it right there. Let's click on that so we can see what we need to have in here. So first of all, it asks for the range. And since we're looking for the range here in the J column here, in the J column, I'm going to click in here and I'm going to type in J3 to J52. So that lights up that column right there, right? Now I need some more information. Where do I want to put that number is the next thing, and we're going to put a comma after that first range there, and then we're going to click on cell R3, and that's where we want to put our query in there. So the criteria or the query criteria is going to be typed in there. So that's how we're telling Excel that's what we need there. And next, we're going to try to go to the column where all the sales are, and that is the O column. That is the O column right there. And so we're going to type in O3 to O52. And then we're going to click close. It looks looking good. It looks like this query's all set up correctly. Hit enter. And of course it says 0. Why? Because we haven't entered anything in here. So what do we enter in here? Of course, one of these job titles, so we can try to figure out where our business is coming from. So why don't I just start with a simple one? I'll type in buyer. And I'm going to hit enter. And there you can see the sum of sales just pops up. So I'm getting really interesting information. How about manager? Okay, so I can see, let's do that. So it's 67,000 for manager, and it was, what was it for buyer? Okay, those are pretty comparable. Let's do another one and see if we can find an outlier here. Let's do a purchase. I think this is purchase agent. Let's see. Yep, purchase agent. So let me type in agent. And we got a little more sales from the purchase agent. And I'll do the last one. I'll do non-manager. Let's see what the non-manager is. Non-manager. Wait a second. So we get the most amount of sales from non-managers. So what we can be telling Pam, Carlos, and Jim is, you get the most sales from non-managers. Why is that? Maybe we need to understand who they are. Maybe we're not defining them well enough. So you can see that this has already yielded me some insight into what's happening, and that's the beautiful sum if formula. I really like this one quite a bit. It's a great little formula there, and I think that's a good one to jump off on. Oh, I think we're going to do one more. I'm not sure if we did this in the last video, but I'll do it again real quickly, and that's the if formula, which I like a lot. So I think I actually did this in the intermediate one, so I'm not going to repeat this one. But those are just a couple formulas that I think are really, really important. I did want to mention one other thing to you too. There's a ability to do a couple of neat things with this Analyze Data button here. So you can kind of just go in and let's do this. Let's first of all erase everything out here because I want to just eliminate all that stuff. And I'm going to click in here and I'm going to click on Analyze Data. So Analyze Data is going to say, what is this? What might Mike want to know? It comes up with an interesting series of charts that I'd like to explore a little bit with you. So analyzing the data is something you can do because you're curious. You're trying to figure out what is going on here. And if I click on here's total sales by region here, I click on that. I think I just click on it to, insert into pivot table. There you go. So now it's created a pivot table for me. And look what it's doing. It's doing a sales by region line up here. So this is really great. We'll be going into pivot tables later. But you can see how neat that is, right? And here's another one. Let's insert this one in here. I like this one maybe even more. Let's take a quantity of sales by salesperson. So this is the quantity, not the dollar value. So we can kind of see here that Carlos is just putting all his energy into the WASP 100. And that's the least amount of sales. So you can see he's generating a lot of business in a small dollar amount versus the all-important Falcon, which is the orange bar right there. So I love this because I love those data suggestions, this analyzed data suggestions, because I almost always come up with something super, super useful. Okay, so that's our analyzed data field. And I'm just going to delete these right now. just because I'm trying to keep my spreadsheet setup here as simple as humanly possible. So was that useful for you that we analyzed that data? I really do hope so. Alrighty. So now that we've done a couple formulas, I did want to mention something else that you might come up for you here. Under review, sometimes you might want to protect a spreadsheet. Now this won't hide the spreadsheet, but protecting a spreadsheet locks it so that other people who might be inclined to noodle with it a little bit will not noodle with your work. And once in a while, that can be a really important thing to do. So from your home button, you want to go over to review and click on review. And then you're going to select protect sheet. And when you do that, you can type in a password. Type it in again and hit OK. And now if I want to change phone to smartphone, I can't do it. What's going on here? I can't change it. Well, it may frustrate people, but the idea here is that sometimes you want to preserve your work and make sure no one tampers with it, especially in spreadsheets, which can be so darn easy to cause problems. So here, to unprotect it, you're going to click this button here, type in your password, and click enter. And now if you want to change phone to smartphone, you could do it. Okay, I'm going to Control Z that back to phone. So that is a nice little pickup that we have there. So I like that review password, that password protect. And I've also clicked on this one and protected the whole workbook from time to time. So if I create a code there, and what happens here, I don't have time to maybe show it all, but when I close and reopen this spreadsheet, it will prompt me for that password. So I like that a lot. I think it's a really great little tool to kind of keep your a spreadsheet private, particularly if somebody has something in it like a password or anything like that. I did want to let you know that I love using a locked spreadsheet for putting some passwords into. And so I would, if you're having trouble with your passwords and maybe you don't want to use one of these off-the-shelf kind of things, I kind of don't trust those too much either. But I just wanted to show you a method for storing your passwords using an Excel spreadsheet that I think is kind of useful. I usually have a bunch of categories down the side here, like, maybe it's IT, and they'll be all sorted down there. Maybe it's travel or whatever it is, social media. So you get all of these passwords and they get confusing. So what I try to do is I put the type of password it is. I put the website, the type, and then the name of it. So I could have 5 IT things here. My Microsoft account, this account, that account, just like that. I put the name of it here. So maybe this is Microsoft, this is Apple. All of those different passwords that you have. And here's the really important thing here. You're going to have your username, password. I just put PW. And I always put some notes here because sometimes they ask you to like your mother's maiden name and things like that. Now, here's the key, and I really hope you take this to heart. You must never, ever write down the actual passwords. I exist almost exclusively encoded in a code, 2 or 3 codes that nobody could possibly know. They're completely random. So let's say that my password was tree, 1964 exclamation point, right? So I might put in there like to signify what this is. I might have something like this, like Birch B-Day. And that means tree plus 1964, which is my birth year, right? So that tells me what that is. And then maybe I have an exclamation point at the end. So my advice for your passwords, you never write them down literally. You only have a substitute code word for them. And then you should password protect, of course, the whole spreadsheet. But this has been incredibly useful for me. I am the one who constantly comes up with the password when someone doesn't have it because I can find it real fast. Super. Now, I want to show you something else that's kind of good to know here when you're working in Excel. I want to make sure that you know that when you're in SharePoint or OneDrive, when you open up an Excel spreadsheet, you can rename it. You can actually rename it really quickly. So if I click in here right? And I want to call this maybe something else. I use this little dating system 210422. It changes that name instantaneously up here. So you can rename files to be more accurate or more clear as to what you're doing there. And let's say, for example, you're working on a spreadsheet and you just mess everything up and you hit save and you think, oh, I really want to go back to the prior version. You can click on this button here and select version history, and you will be able to roll back to prior versions real fast. So if you've ever had that problem where your spreadsheet's just going in the wrong direction, well, I just strongly recommend that you do that as well. Okay, so let's now talk a little bit about let's talk about our pivot tables. So within our pivot table world that we're in, I think it's so kind of critically important for us to know how and why pivot tables work and to play with them a lot. So this big spreadsheet is a great spreadsheet to play with for pivot tables. Now, before we get started, what I want to make sure everybody understands is that blank spaces in a pivot table cause a lot of problems. They cause a lot of challenges and problems and issues. So I want to make sure that you know that if you have a blank space in here, like there's a 4, maybe change, or there's nothing in there, you want that to be 0. So just go and look through and make sure you're okay with no blank spaces. Looks like we're good here. And across the top here, just to kind of remind you of what's in here, we've got our client's first and last name, the region that they're in, billing city, their state, zip code, sales. The person who sold the stuff to them is the salesperson there. The lead source is where we got the lead. So where are these salespeople finding the business? Where are they going to find the leads? And then who are they selling to? The date of the sales and the product, the quantity that they sold, and the cost. These are the costs per unit. And these are the total dollar values all the way down here to the bottom where we we auto sum that. We can see our total. We're looking at $300,000, roughly $309,000 in business. So let's create our pivot table now. All you have to do is you occupy any cell inside of the pivot area, and then you're going to click on Insert and Pivot Table. But first, let's always do this. It's easy to go straight to the table. Let's click on Recommended Tables, and we're going to get some interesting stuff that might give us a head start. So we might look in here and say, what I want to see is a total sales by region. Let me click on that and click OK. And look at that. Now I can see my regional sales. And we've got our total of 309,000. But look at that. 104,000 is coming out of the West. That's obviously our best market. So what are we doing in the West? Who's calling on the Western business? They're obviously doing well. So again, we're getting clues to how we can help this group of people by analyzing the data and figuring out what's what. But let's say we want to change this around. We want to take this pivot table and do something that's more powerful with it. So I'm going to take out some of these values here by clicking and dragging them out of here. So what do we have here? Well, first of all, we have filters, which I rarely use because I use something called slicers, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But the columns and the rows are really where you build the table and decide what it's going to look like. The values are going to be usually for some type of number. It's usually numerical there. And usually it's something like this, your total sales column there. Okay? So if I bring in my sum of total sales there, and now I'm going to bring in my salesperson to the column here, now I can see total sales by person. See that? Got Carlos, Jim, Karen, Pam, and we've got that blank 309,000. That 309,000 is messing us up a little bit. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take it out of there. Okay, because I just want to keep this spreadsheet really easy to understand. Okay, and so I'm going to go back in here, back in the spreadsheet. Notice how everything disappears. So I'm going to take this out here, take this out here, and see if I can go back in here and just put total sales in there. Okay, and then I'm going to click on salesperson, and I'm going to click on product. And now I can sort of see the salesperson by product again. Here's the Cam Jam. Here's the Falcon and the Wasp. Now, if you're like me, and I don't know if you are or not, and by the way, if you want to make these equally large, just highlight them all and just click one of them, the smallest one, to the size that you want them all to be uniformly. You can see that works there. I'm going to bring these back together a little bit because the numbers aren't right beneath the person. Whoops, let me do that again. thought I could just shrink these down too. Shrink it down. There we go. Okay. So what I want to do is throw my heat map on this to kind of see, like these to me, a lot of things don't jump. Like I see Karen here is at a pretty low number there, but this is a lot of information, even though it's in a small area. So one of the most important things is to constantly go to here and drop on your heat map. And that's usually what I use is the color scales and the first color scale there. Okay. So I got to highlight this area, and I go to the formatting, color scales, and I always take this first one. And that really lets me see that, oh, Karen is selling the heck out of this Falcon. Pam is doing quite well. Jim is really not selling the Falcon at all. So immediately I know that we got to talk to Jim, maybe get Karen and Pam do a little coaching session. Carlos isn't doing too bad. In fact, Carlos is our top salesperson. He's got the highest overall sales number. So I'm just gleaning all kinds of great information from this particular chart here. Now, I can keep on blending this stuff around. So I'm going to try just adding salespersons to the rows, and I get a completely different kind of chart here. So now I can see that again, Carlos is doing pretty well. Karen and Jim are in the red here. So Pam is not so good with the WASP, but that might not be a bad thing because it's a very low cost item. So it may not be the best idea to be great at that. And we can add another element. So let's go get the client job title and pop that into the columns. And now we can start to see, the totals for each one. Buyer, manager, non-manager. You can see our heat map is kind of activated in here. Usually what I'll do is kind of take the heat map off, and then I'll pop in here and move this around so that I don't have like the heat map will kind of splinter and fracture. So again, going by job title, we can sort of see, which people that we sell the most with. I think non-manager was our hot spot there, but you can see this is another way for us to know where we're doing really well. Notice the gaps. Sometimes it's the blank spaces that tell you the most. So here we can see that Jim has no business with managers and no business with buyers. I wonder why he doesn't. And Jim down here with the Falcon, again, he's not selling to these buyers and these managers. And so we can see everybody's weak spot here. And again, Jim not selling to buyers, Karen and Pam not selling the WAFs to buyers, but we can see that. Let's see where, for example, Pam is selling a lot to. So we can follow her line over there. Look at that. She's selling a lot to the manager group there. In fact, it's her number one thing, and then purchase is twice. So we can see the weaknesses and the gaps really easily. We can go and coach our salespeople on this every day. Now, another way that we can evaluate how these folks are doing is that we can look at what lead source things are coming from. We could look at region, which is where we started, but what about lead source? Lead source means, where are they pursuing the leads the most and getting the business? And here, let's say social media is one place they go. They put they do some networking on LinkedIn or whatever they might do, and they land some business. Well, look at them relatively speaking. So we can see existing client, 99,000. That's a big driver. The other big driver to me is the trade shows. And again, I like to throw that heat map on here. And then it gives me such great information. So I just pop this color scale in to see where the red marks are. And that usually shows that we're not selling the Cam Jam through social media, which is too bad because the Cam Jam creates all these great aerial videos. And it's ideal for showing people on social media. So again, just trying to give you the idea of how we flow through here. Look for the gaps, look for the white gaps. Those are problems. But also look where people are in the red. And then also look where let's catch people doing something right. For example, the Falcon team has sold 62,000 of that. It's their number one thing. And Karen is crushing it here, as you can see. And she's doing quite well for trade shows. And Pam is selling an awful lot to existing clients. In fact, here we can see, I think, a problem. We know that Carlos's trend for those charts was down. And what we see here is that he is so popular with his existing clients, but yet he's not selling. He's not closing those existing clients on those types of sales. So again, you can just see that we're getting a pretty nice picture of, of what's going on in the lives of these folks here. And the heat map tells us a great deal. Now, let's say, for example, I'm going to just exit out of that heat chart there. Okay. And let's say we go back to here, and I'm going to go back to product salesperson. I'm I'm going to see if lead source fits in there. That's a nice one. So we've got the product across the lead generation. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a slicer. Let me start with a slicer. I'm going to insert a couple slicers just to give you a feel for what you're seeing here. So if I click on this slicer button, let me actually do this. I click on the slicer button and I get this error message, which is really, really annoying. And so what I've done there is my mouse is not inside the pivot table. So the slicer doesn't know what I'm looking to slice. And the slicer will allow us to slice and dice our information really nicely. So if I click on this slicer, it's going to say, what kind of slicer do you want to create? Well, I'm going to create a salesperson slicer, a lead source slicer, and let me also select a product slicer. I'll click OK. So now I've got a way that I can do filtering. That's why I don't use the filter function that much in pivot tables, because I prefer to pop these handy dandy slicers in there. So, starting with the product, if we want to isolate all the sales for Falcon, we just click Falcon and the chart changes for us. We're only looking at Falcon sales here. So we can see the totals. Wasp, we can see the total, and CamJam, we can see the total. So we know that Falcon is $30,000 more than everything else combined there. To click to get it back to how it was, just click on this funnel X, and now let's look at lead source. And again, you can see how we're isolating things within lead source, and that's going to allow us to see and visualize a lot more of what's happening there. You know, when I click on the web, I can see, boy, the only two people selling anything on the web are Carlos and Pam. So they probably need to do a little help, a little teamwork thing with, with their colleagues there. So let me reset this one. And now I'm going to go Carlos. I'm going to go Jim. And I can even press my control button and do Jim and Karen. I could do Pam, who's really cranking, and Carlos, who's struggling a little bit in the end of the year. And I could look at how they're doing, like where are the gaps. And maybe it's okay that Pam has gaps here because she's focusing in on other areas that will yield more business. But we can definitely see with Carlos, I think the problem is more around existing client sales. So if we saw existing client sales, this is probably the most telling image we could have that tries to helping our 4 salespeople. I click on existing sales, and Carlos isn't even there. He has no existing sales. So I think we've diagnosed the problem pretty well. So that is a quick look at how you can use pivot tables. They're just so much fun, I think, to utilize. So I'm going to exit out of here for a moment, and let's move into our discussion of macros here. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I got to open up my macro spreadsheet. So the macro spreadsheet is a different spreadsheet. And the reason why I'm going into a different spreadsheet is because with macros, you have to have, they're coded in a different way. They do act a little differently. So let me see if I can find my macro spreadsheet here. I've done a bunch of test spreadsheets, so I hope I get the right one. Let's see if this is the right one. Oh no, they're in here. Let's see. That does look like the right one. Okay. So same group of people, okay? But I'm giving you now something exciting. You now know their last names, so you can even look them up on LinkedIn if you want to. Pam, Jim, Karen, and Carlos Rivera here. And what I've done is added some data here. So we have the January numbers with January through June. Now watch what happens when I click February through July. So we're looking at the rolling 6-month trends for them, and March through August. So we can see a bunch of things here. So when we want to create a macro, and let's say every month we do a little processing on this thing to make it easier to understand and more clear, more effective. So what we're going to do here is a bunch of things. But first I want to show you this. If you don't see this developer tab here, and some people may not, you need to just right click anywhere up here and select customize the ribbon. See that? And then you make sure that this developer tab is here. You might work with your help center. If it's not and you can't find it, you might need to go into popular commands or even all commands. That'll be every command there is, and just click on it, and there's an add button here, and that will take it from here into there. But if it's checked, we're in good shape, so I'm going to click OK. Next thing that I'm going to do is I would click F12, my file save as. Remember that bypasses that menu, and make sure that I save this not as an Excel workbook, but as an Excel macro enabled workbook. So we're into a different thing here, And so it's going to act a little differently. The number one thing that I don't like about these macro-enabled spreadsheets is that when I hit Control Z to undo stuff, it tends to stay, it doesn't undo it like a normal spreadsheet does. But otherwise, the macros add a tremendous value. So here's the scenario. Since I've got to do this every single month and reformat these things every single month, can I record the set so that when I get the new data set, I just basically create another tab in the same spreadsheet, because the macro really lives in this spreadsheet. And I just create another tab and another tab and another tab, and then I can apply all of those changes with just a click. But first I've got to make those changes. So let's begin, and I just want to put a heat map on this with conditional formatting. For some reason, let's say I need to separate Pam's name, because I want to show you a little feature that would allow us to separate the first and last name. Oh, let's say I need to total stuff up here to see what the total sales are, and that'll probably be good, okay? So here we go. You take a deep breath. And let me try to walk you through this. So here within macros, I'm going to click on record macro. And when I click on that, I'm going to name this macro. I'm going to call this format 6 months. Oh, you know what? This cannot have a space in it. So it's got to be format underscore 6 underscore months. Okay? And I can even create a shortcut to bring up this macro. I haven't done that, so you might want to practice that if you use a lot of these. I'm going to click OK. Now notice that it says now stop recording. So it's going to say, okay, what are you going to do now? So now you have to be very precise. So it may take a couple times to get this exactly precisely how you want it. But let's go in here and start my formatting. First of all, I need to separate these two names. So I'm going to highlight this column, and I'm going to insert a column. There we go. Right now, I'm going to rename salesperson to first name, last name. First name, last name. Okay, now I'm going to highlight the names that I want to separate. And I am going to go to, I'm going to go to data and text to columns. You know, I haven't used this that much. I'm going to right click on that and add it to my quick access toolbar. So now I have it for the future. I don't have to go hunting for it. I forgot where it was for a second there. And I'm now going to click text to columns. Now it's going to say, do you want to have it delimited? And I just leave it at delimited. Click next and make sure that space is checked. See, I had to check space there. And then I'm going to click next again and finish. And just like that, I've separated the names. Kind of cool, huh? So what's next here? Oh, and by the way, I started this in March. I should have started it in January, but that's okay. Next, I'm going to put in that conditional formatting. So I'm going to go to Home. And I'm going to select conditional formatting. Then I'm going to pick up color scales. And then I'm going to click on that. And now I've got that little heat map on there. Now I still have to do some other things. I got to total these columns. So let me go out here and click auto sum. And I hit enter. And then I'm going to fill these down. And I'm going to auto sum again because I want my total for my 6 months rolling. Enter. And here I'll put in 6 months rolling. Number. Maybe expand this out a little bit. I think I want to make this top column bold. And maybe I'll even put it inside of a box here just to make everything crystal clear. I'm going to, oh, no, it's right here. Border. And I click that to kind of put the boxes in there. Great, it's getting easier to understand. Oh, I better put a total up here. I'll just put totals up here. There. So I think I'm in pretty good shape there. So now that I've done all that, I'm going to go back to developer and I'm going to hit stop recording. Okay, and now when the next month comes up, we're going to go backwards here, but if the next month comes back, I'll go to January here. Now January, the data comes in, it's sitting here. All I have to do To activate this is to go to macros and select that macro that I want and click run. And look at that, just like that, it did every single thing that I just did there in literally one click. And in fact, I can create a button for this too that I could copy from month to month as I copy and make new months. So I'm just going to create a button for this. I think I can do it here. So I'm going to click on the developer tab and insert, and I'll create a little button here. Click on that button. Whoop. Button. And it should be prompting me. I don't know why it didn't prompt me. Oh, maybe I need to do it. Let me try to do it here. I'm going to click on insert and the button. Come on. Drag it. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to make the button with my silly. There it is. So I'm going to call this format and click OK. And now I've got a button there. So if I can right click on that button and copy it into the next month that I got to do, like that, now I might be able to just do one click and format the next button. Let's see how that works. Whoop. I made a mistake. Or all macros are disabled. Oh, that's too bad. This worked when I practiced it, so I will, maybe I need to make this button inside of here. Let me just see if I can cut this one. Okay, let me try one more time to create that button. But you should be able to create a button and just kind of lay it out there. Format 6 months. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to type in format here. I think I did. I think I should have selected the macro only there. And now I'll click the button. There it goes. And it worked just fine. So the key will be to get this button by copying it into, the next iteration where there is no button. And, then I'm going to paste this in here. Let me just paste it. And now I've got a button that I can use in the next go round. Can't use it here because I've already done the calculation. But that is your basic idea of how your macros are going to work. Okay? So that is really most of what I wanted to cover in this advanced section. But I did have one or two other things that I thought I might share with you. And I think what I'd like to show you is the process of how you dedupe something. So one of the problems that you'll get when you're working in spreadsheets is you get a duplicate name, and now you've got two of the same person in there, and you want to really rapidly deduplicate what it is. So let's create a very simple scenario. First, last name, and email address. Right? And so I'm going to create some names here. Mike Song. That's my email, by the way, if you need to get in touch with me. I'll put Gail Stevens. These are such boring, regular old names, but they're not boring. My name, I guess, is fun, and so is Gail. I like Gail Stevens. That's a great name. I just try to think of some exotic names, So there is this name. And how about Cassie? Oh, Flannery. I'm just making stuff up here, guys. co@getcontrol.net. And then I'm going to put myself in there again. So I'm the dupe here. I'm the dupe. And so you can see one of these is one of these should be taken out because it's the same information on that row. So we want to deduplicate this information. So to do the deduplication process, you want to go to review. And review is where we put our password protection on here. And so here in review, we're going to want to go in and for review. Oops, hold on a sec. I think I'm not in review. Hold on, I'm in data, I think. Yes, we're in data. I'm sorry. You go to data. My bad. I wrote it down wrong. Data. And to dedupe something, we're going to go over here and click on the remove duplicates button. And it says this can't be applied. Select a single range, cell, and arrange and try again. So I think what you do is you kind of just create this. You highlight the area where it will speak for the whole row. You go up to remove duplicates and click remove duplicates. Click OK. Oh, no, here's what you do. Oh, yeah, there, it did it. So I clicked OK. So I let me just do it again. Let me see if I can do it again. So I highlighted the row that I wanted to dedupe in. I went to remove duplicates. It said click remove duplicates. And then it will say, do you want to remove all of this stuff or just one part of this? And by the way, I always check my data has headers, and I click OK. And there it goes. One duplicate found and removed, 3 unique values remain. So the process of deduplication, that can really help you in terms of, working super efficiently over time as time goes by. I also want to do this before I forget. I did want to kind of pop in here and just show you that the Analyze Data button, when you're working with a bigger data set, comes up with some pretty cool ideas. And here they are. So this can be, a very, large, spreadsheets or very small ones too. And it usually pops in something good that's really, really useful. Last thing that I want to cover with you, and I think I just want to cover this last bit with you is, your ability to leave notes in a spreadsheet is kind of important. You can have a spreadsheet that people don't understand what it is. And I think one of the nicest things that you can do is go into that spreadsheet and just leave a comment. So you can basically leave a comment or I think you can leave notes too, a new note. And the notes are good because you can stretch those notes out. So yeah, so go to notes, and that's where you can say, this is a spreadsheet that does A, B, and C, does all this different stuff. And this is a great way that you can sort of communicate to the users of your spreadsheets without having to be there. So it's a great little time saver just to put those notes in there. And you'll usually recognize them with a little red in the upper right-hand corner. And that is, I think, a great little pickup as well. So on that note, I think we've got some great content in here. And I hope you enjoyed the session here. I really look forward to getting your feedback on it, and I hope it helps you use Excel at the next level. On that note, I did want to just mention to this group, as I did to the last one in the intermediate class, the power of putting your tools in one place like this. I think it's so important today to utilize these tools by, adding them by right-clicking on them and adding them to the quick access toolbar. Most of the ones I use the most are on here, but if I take one off and add it in, that's really powerful. If you don't see this quick access toolbar here, you probably have it stored up here where everybody else does in the world. And you just want to find this little drop down here and select show below the ribbon. So there you go. So that is our session for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And please let me know if you have any other questions about Excel that I can answer for you. But I'd like to thank you for your time here today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Mike Song, and I will see you next time. You can always reach me at info@getcontrol.net, and I'm going to put up my cover slide here. Actually, I'm going to go to my website so I can hopefully show up again on here. There I am. So take care, everyone. I'm so glad that you could come and be here. Now, let me just let you know this. If you're having some trouble with some of the stuff we covered, particularly the intermediate to lower advanced stuff, the macros I don't have yet in a video format. We do have a whole set of videos in our quick hit video library. So let me know if you need to see one of those videos. I can send you a link to it. We would love to work with you all in the future. And I want to wish you guys a great rest of the year. And I hope I can be with you in a live setting. I have been doing so many webinars in the past year. You can probably hear in my voice, it's hoarse because I am literally doing 4 or 5 of these a day. But I love it. I love my job. It's really been a nice job. My mom and my sister live out in Los Angeles, so we always loved coming out and seeing you and Robin and everybody else out there live. So we wanted to thank you for that opportunity, and I hope you attend the Get Control of Email class, because it is a video well worth watching for anyone who works in Outlook and communicates and wants to talk about organizing email and how rules work and all the little automations that are in there. I just know you're going to really enjoy that as well. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. And until next time, I'm Mike Song signing off. Bye, everyone.